was under the adage of, you you open it, they'll come. It's the
Uh-huh.
fitness business that thinks they need to adopt every new modality that comes out.
Mm-hmm.
You end up doing Zumba and stilettos because that's the thing that everybody wants to do, as opposed to staying true to what does your consumer need from you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like, I'll just be bigger. We'll get more space, or we'll just offer more programming, all of these things, but they're flailing because they don't want to just sell. They don't want to just go deep.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Masters in Fitness Business Podcast, where you get to stand on the shoulders of giants. And today I'm bringing you a giant from the great city of Chicago. We got Leslie Lyons, who is, she's an entrepreneur. That's the best way to describe her. She has a successful pole dancing studio in Chicago called Bombshell Movement Studio. Yes, I said pole dancing. And then she also has a business consulting business that's going on called Unshakable Leadership, that she works with, fitness business owners to make them more successful in their business one-on-one. So you can feel free to reach out to her after this show. And then she has a podcast too. And I love the names that she comes up with. Her podcast is called Black Girls Fit Files, and I love it. So Leslie, welcome to the show. Did I forget anything?
Yeah, no worries. Actually, that is not my podcast. That's my girl's
Oh,
podcast. But shout
okay.
out to Elijah,
Okay.
who runs Black Girl Fit Files. Um,
Yeah.
Mine's is actually Beyond the Pole, Tales of the CEO. But
I like
yeah,
that
so
too.
but we're gonna give out Delicia's shout out as well.
Okay.
Delicia runs, actually, Jim. There's an organization called Black Girls Pole, and it
Uh-huh.
was a movement all around getting Black women to get involved with pole dancing. It is the largest. She does these retreats. She's amazing. So if I had to be confused with anybody, I'd love to be confused with Delicia.
Okay. All right, good. Well, we gave Delija and you a shout out on the podcast. Yeah. So so when we talked earlier on our initial call and before we started recording, you were talking about the 4 Ps that we're going to cover when it comes to sales. Because I like your philosophy on sales because I think like everything else, there's the science of a thing, whether it be sales, training, there's the science. That's if you do A and B, you get C. And then there's the art of it, right?
I love
And
that.
that's where like the little nuances and the creativity and all of that can come out. So when I was coaching high school hockey another lifetime ago, the analogy that I would always use is that on a hockey team, you have you know, a, you have greyhounds and you have like Chihuahuas, right? Okay.
Okay, okay.
And then greyhounds, you can't put in a Chihuahua role. They'll be unhappy and you'll be unhappy with them. So greyhounds, you just got to let those guys run. Those dogs run. The
Yeah.
Chihuahuas, they're the kind of tenacious ones, that guy, so you got to put them in a role where they're going to feel like they're successful and you're happy with them in the role. So your approach to sales is kind of the same way, is that you take that personality and apply it to their sales technique.
Absolutely.
So I'm excited to have you on the show. So let's jump right into it. Well, actually, let's back up a little bit because I want to explore this pole dancing thing. I know we talked about it, earlier, but I want our listeners to get in on this
Yeah,
too.
go.
So, why pole dancing?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and it's interesting when you made the parallel between the Greyhounds and the Chihuahuas as we lead into the selling part of it. Traditionally, there are two types of salespeople: they're hunters and they're farmers.
Hmm.
And so it's kind of the same analogy. So I'm following out a way to bring that back up. But why pole dancing? I always say, why not? But no, one of the things that's absolutely amazing is that pole dance made its way into the fitness conversation about 20 years ago. And so a lot of people think it's more recent because it's just been popularized through reality TV.
Hmm.
But the very first mainstream pole studio opened up over 20 years ago at this point. It's Sheila Kelly. She owns S Factor. It started in LA in her garage. You may know her. She's actually an actress on The Good Doctor, and
Oh,
her husband is the producer of The Good Doctor. And so she started researching it basically for a role that she was playing. And she got such amazing fitness benefits from it, but also internal transformation that she was like, I got to bring this to the masses. So, how does that come to me in Chicago sitting down watching Oprah? At the time, I was in corporate sales, okay, but I was an outside sales rep. So, what do outside sales reps do? We make a couple of sales a month, and the rest of the time we watch TV. That's how it goes down, okay? You hit your quota and you're done. So, I had hit my quota, and I'm like sitting there watching Oprah. And this was one of those episodes where she was like, get in touch with your inner sex spot. Here's all these different ways. And so she had like Samantha from Sex in the City and just all these women talking about how they stay connected to their sexuality and their turn on and all of that. So it was okay. Well, out comes this woman with this pole. And I'm like, holy crap, what's getting ready to go down here on daytime television, right? And the woman looks like, my neighbor, like just every day, nothing all gussied up or whatever. She made it very accessible. So in that moment, she started speaking the language of reclamation that I've expanded to liberation, um, strength, courage, power. A lot of things that female identifying folks sometimes feel like they need more of. And so she caught my attention. And me being the entrepreneur that I am, I started saying, how much money is she making off of this? I was like, people are tuned in. People like spicy. And honestly, I'm going to be 100% candid. I've never admitted this publicly. I thought it was going to be a fad. I thought I was going to come in, make some quick money, go on to another project because I am an entrepreneur, low key a hustler too. So my mentality is kind of like, could I get this money and move on to the next thing? But once I got into it and started experiencing transformation for myself, I was like, oh no, this is the real deal. And we attract the types who, and there's different styles of pole, but the fitness side of pole, the type of woman that we attract is the woman who's not wanting to be in the gym for whatever the reason, whether it's some insecurity around body image and using the machines and not quite sure how that's going to all work out, or she's been there, done that, and she's looking for the next physical challenge. So, pole is very similar to any other body weight resistance training. I often compare it to TRX because there's some suspension aspect into it, but it's really body weight training. So people who approach it from fitness, it's just like any other fitness modality. They've got to do it 3 to 4 times a week. They've got to do all the things that they would need to do if they were working with you, if they were working with a personal trainer, if they want to see definitive fitness benefits.
right. Yep.
My studio is more on the central exploration side of things. It's about the emotional transformation. So we don't go really hard with the tricks where you're hanging on by a pinky toe and a rhomboid. That's what I always say. We're not doing we're not doing those types of tricks at my space, but
Hmm.
the industry as a whole can offer that as an opportunity. So
Hmm.
um, I am a multiple six-figure business. We're opening our second studio any day now, and it's it's here to stay. I've had it for 15 years, and I don't see it shutting down anytime soon because there are always going to be women who are looking to stand in their power. And because we said we were going to go here, so we're going here, Jim. You ready? You ready, Jim? All right.
I'm as ready as I'm going to get, Leslie. Yeah.
But for women folk, there is a lot of power in our sexuality, in our sensuality. You cannot
Mhm.
stop a turned on woman, period.
Mhm.
When
Yeah, and who
she's
would want to?
Jim, that's what I'm talking about. And so honestly, when women
Mhm.
are turned on, they can accomplish so much. They have so much energetically to bring to all areas of their life. And so that's what we really focus on at Bombshell.
Okay, awesome. I like it.
Yeah,
So that was a short answer on why pole. No, but I like it because you went deep, and that's what I really like. Is that kind of long form content where you can really get deep and motivational and just below the surface. You know, that something that you can get conceptually that can carry you a long way. So let's get into sales. So you were
yeah.
in corporate sales,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then you kind of took a unforeseen, turn into fitness through pole.
Yeah.
So now you've combined those two. So tell us about that.
So going back to the analogy, there's hunters and there's farmers. I'm a farmer, meaning so hunters go out and they look for those big elephant deals. Like they want the big deal, hit it, quit it, move on to the next thing.
Mhm.
Not very good at nurturing relationships, not very interested in follow up and those sorts of things. They are charged up by the big deal. Well, a farmer in sales is someone who, once they get the deal, we're going to milk every nook and cranny out of that deal. So I'm not looking for the next thing. I'm looking to go deep with the client I have, where Hunter is looking to go wide. And
Okay.
so I've always been the type of salesperson that wanted to go deep. So it was relational. I knew my clients very well. Like I knew their kids' names. I knew, I remember things like you told me you were going on a trip. How was your trip? I remember those types of things because I'm looking to build that relationship. It's not just a transaction for me. And I'm not saying hunters are just transactional, but low
Hmm.
key, if you're a hunter, you know you are. Okay. It's kind of like, I want the next thing. So
Hmm.
for me, I was working for a Fortune 500 company and I was brought on my last sales job to start a new division for them. And within 6 months, that division was bringing in $5.2 million in revenue within 6 months. And so I know how to sell and I enjoy it. So it was always odd to me when I started kind of getting in the entrepreneurial streets, when I would hear people who had resistance towards selling. I'm like, what you mean?
When you say resistance, you mean they were resistant themselves or the people they were trying to sell?
No, it starts with them.
Okay, got it.
They were resistant to selling. Like they kind of just was under the adage of, you you open it, they'll come. It's the
Uh-huh.
fitness business that thinks they need to adopt every new modality that comes out.
Hmm.
You end up doing Zumba and stilettos because that's the thing that everybody wants to do, as opposed to staying true to what does your consumer need from you, right?
Hmm.
And so it was like, I'll just be bigger. We'll get more space or we'll just offer more programming, all of these things, but they're flailing because they don't want to just sell. They don't want to just go deep.
Hmm.
Um, and so I started kind of talking to
And
entrepreneurs.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but do you
Yeah.
find that some, especially in the fitness industry, and I guess it's probably just population wide, is that sales make them feel icky,
Oh, yeah.
like, yeah, like used car, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Absolutely. Used car
Okay.
sales.
Hmm.
Somehow sales got a bad rap. At some
Hmm.
point, I still haven't figured it out, Jim. If you know, figured out, text me. I don't know how it got a bad rap because nothing happens until something's sold.
Hmm.
There's nothing in our environment that doesn't have a salesperson attached to it. Someone has to articulate the value because that's how
Right.
I see selling. It's literally articulating value and transformation, period.
Yeah.
And you would think it would be natural for fitness professionals because all you sell is transformation.
Right. And the solution. Yeah.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
So it's odd for me that people have some tension around it, but I understand it now. And it's truly because I call it wearing. Do you have any siblings at all?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I think we talked about this. What,
Uh-huh.
older or younger?
I'm the youngest of five.
Oh yeah, we did talk about this. Okay.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So you understand hand-me-down clothes.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And beat downs.
Well, I'm the oldest of six. So I have been on the giving end of a beatdown for sure. So, but it's really that where your older brother's clothes were perfectly fine clothes, but because his body is different than yours, those clothes never perfectly fit you. Even as you grew, they still never perfectly fit you because you're not identical. That's how I think about sales scripts and what I was seeing in the fitness industry in particular. The sales trainings were very much so around scripts. This is what you say. When you get them in the door, this is how you get them to take an appointment. This is what you say when they get to the desk. It was very scripted and not natural. And I was like, this is why they don't feel comfortable because this isn't them. This isn't who they are. This is the corporate shtick. This is what they are told they should say. What could we do if we figured out who that salesperson was and what their strengths really were? And then I work with the owner on, as opposed to coming up with scripts, how do you communicate your value? What stories are you telling your team that they can adopt and make their own and synthesize through their personality, where everybody's singing the same tune, but it's through who they authentically are? You will see your revenue skyrocket because it feels good. It doesn't feel, and it feels good to the client, right?
Right. Well, it feels natural, feels or authentic, like you said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 It's like this is a good relationship. I trust you, Jim. I
hmm
trust what you're saying. I don't feel scripted because hell, it's not.
Right. So can you give us an example of like coming in and doing away with the script and then identifying the personality of a sales rep? And because I know in the fitness industry, what happens is that a lot of times the head trainer or the best trainer gets promoted to the sales position. And it's just because they're a great trainer doesn't mean they're going to be a great salesperson,
Hello.
especially without training, right?
Yeah.
So give us an example of like somebody that you've worked with, you identify what personality they were, and then work that into the story that they bought into that made them authentic with their
Yeah,
sales.
absolutely. When you said that, the whole promoting the head trainer, I literally choked myself. You guys couldn't see it, but I literally choked myself because that's like death.
Mm-hmm.
Hiring people who are good practitioners is what I call it. People who just do their job really well does not make a leader. And I see
Mm-hmm.
sales as leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And because you have to lead someone through the process of making the decision.
Mm-hmm.
And so looking around the room and saying who has the most business, that could be the most arrogant SOB in the place.
Mm-hmm.
And he has all the business. He has every woman in there fawning over him. I've been there. Everyone fawning over him in the gym. And you're like, you know what? I ain't gonna show up for half of these personal training lessons. But you know what? We're gonna go over there and talk to Tom, right? But that doesn't mean he's a great salesperson just because he has a big book of business. And I
Right.
think oftentimes as owners, we need to realize that. So I'm thinking of a client, specifically Sarah. She owns a bar studio, and very much so about the empowerment, the journey transformation. So strength, inner strength, not just external strength, courage, power, all of these things inside of her studio. And but her sales were in the tank. And she was just like, I can't figure it out. People enjoy our experience. Beautiful studio, a beautiful space. Everybody professional, great attitudes. And I'm like, well, let me meet your sales team. And so she had two people selling. And the ones who was doing really well was the one who was just like Sarah, extremely bubbly, understood the transformation. And so it was kind of natural. She was kind of soft spoken and just really a sweet woman. The other trainer was kind of like me, the other salesperson, gregarious, um, loud. And when I watched her on her sales call, I could see her trying to mute herself
Uh-huh.
to become little Sarah and the other rep.
Oh, gotcha.
So she was trying to take all her fire and become the sweet, more customer service, more demure coming across. And
Uh-huh.
she's really like, all right, what you need to do is really get on in here and get this done. But
Uh-huh.
she's trying to squeeze into that mold.
Uh-huh.
And immediately I was like, Sarah, this is the issue. This script that you've got works really well, because she was like, it works for this other sales rep. I'm like, because you guys have the same personality.
Mm-hmm.
I bet I can prove it. So she was like, how? So essentially, one of the tools that I use in the 4P framework is personality, and we use the lens of the Enneagram. The Enneagram is a personality assessment, very similar to Myers Briggs or DISC,
Mm-hmm.
any of those, where there's actually 9 different types on this wheel, and they fall into 3 buckets. They're heart people, head people, and gut people.
Hmm.
And because this isn't a story of a conversation necessarily about the Enneagram, I won't go that deep, but I do want to give your listeners a high level overview so they follow the conversation. So I always tell people, and I'm going to ask you, Jim, when you're faced with a problem that you need to solve, is your natural inclination, now we do all of these at some point, but
Mm-hmm.
your first instinct, is it to think through what's happening? Do you feel something in your body, like you feel it, like you check with how you're feeling about this?
Mm-hmm.
Or is your natural inclination to take action?
Action.
Yeah. Okay. Gut people take action.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
I'm a gut person. I was going to tell you that. Yeah.
Did you take the
Mm-hmm.
test and see what your number was?
Oh no, I was just when you were talking, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm definitely a gut. I'm kind of a gut first and a head second, and then comes the heart.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so gut people, they are eights, nines, and ones. Okay.
What does
I'm an
that mean?
So these are the numbers, the 9 numbers.
Okay.
Okay. So
Okay.
1 to 9. And people who fall in that gut triad are eights, nines, and ones. These are
Okay.
action takers. So these are people, when they're faced with making decisions, they're going to want to do something. I'm an eight. Eights are the most explosive number on the Enneagram in terms of energy, in terms of attitude. All of us are fueled by anger. So if you're in that gut triad, you can access anger very easily. Can you access anger very easily?
That's a long story. The short answer is yes, and the long answer is I've come a long way.
All right, that's what's up. That's what's up. We have to
Yeah.
learn how to wield anger with precision.
Mm-hmm.
Eights can access it very quickly, very
Mm-hmm.
easily. And I use my anger now, as opposed to blowing up everything around me when I was unintegrated. I use it as fuel now.
Mm-hmm.
It's what motivates me. It's what drives me. If
Mm-hmm.
something's not right, if I feel like someone's being taken advantage of, man, it gets me fired up to take action.
Right. Oh
So
yeah.
in a
I
sales,
remember you saying that. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
yeah, so in a sales situation, an eight is going to show up with saying, to that customer, the customer is going to feel the confidence of an 8. They're going to feel, I believe in you. And more importantly, I believe in this. How important is that to a fitness business? How important is that to a gym?
Huge.
I believe in what we do here. Yeah, there's 20 other gyms in town. But what we're doing here, I know exactly the results you'll get. I know exactly the transformation. And I truly believe this is the best modality. This is the best. We've got the best trainers. 8s come with that confidence. And clients feel it. They're like, well, damn, you're right, Jim. This is the best. I want to do that. So they borrow your confidence.
Okay.
But if you're trying to be a 2, so for an example, a 2 falls into the heart type. So these are people who feel. 2s, 3s, and 4s feel. So a 2 is going to be with that same customer. They're not going to be, I'm super confident in these products. If you go down the street, you're a dummy. Okay. Because that's really my energy. It's kind of like, if you don't choose this, that's on you. Because honestly, this is the best. 2s are going to say, I see you. I see what you need. And they will beautifully articulate the needs of that customer. That customer, 2s make customers cry. Because they will really get to the heart of why they're sitting there. Why are you overweight? What happens? A 2's gonna know your mom died last year, and you know the dog ran away, and they are going to get to the emotional need that that person has, because 2s are helpers. And they have an uncanny ability to see what people need. So in that same situation, you got 2 different types of salespeople with 2 different types of personalities. One's going to sell, I see you, I care about you, I'm here to help you. The other one's going to say, you see us. And we can get you where you want to be, because you want to be like us. This is a cool kids table. Come over. And depending upon the person that's sitting in the seat, they're going to respond differently. So I always tell people it's not a right or a wrong thing, because we hear things through the lens of how we process it. So a 2 might hear me saying, this is the cool kids table, as being snobby or not inclusive, but people who respond to that energy, they see that as assurance. They see that as confidence. They see that as power. They see that as, I want to be on that team. Whereas somebody who's a 2 tries to sell to me, I feel like you're trying to manipulate me.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Taking your kindness for weakness.
Yeah. Like, I feel like you're trying to gather information on me so you can sell me. So I'm guarded with people like that. Right.
Okay.
But here's the beautiful thing. All 9 of those personalities are coming into your studio. They're coming into your gym, and they need different types of personalities.
Right. And that's the art. Yep.
That's
got
the
it.
art.
Okay.
So this Enneagram tool, we give it to all our staff members. Right now, I have 22 staff members. We give during the interview process, everyone takes this assessment.
Okay.
Because I want to know what you're motivated by and what's the best seat on the bus for you.
Yeah.
It kind of goes back to the Chihuahua and the Greyhound.
Yes.
It's not that the Greyhound is not being successful, but if you put them in a Chihuahua's position, they're going to fail.
Nobody's going to be happy. You're not going to be happy. They're not going to be happy. The customer's not going to be happy. Yeah.
That's right. So for me, this is such a powerful tool for a business owner to have from a staffing perspective, and particularly as it relates to sales, is to make sure that you have a variety of these personalities. At least have each of the triads represented, right? Have someone that's heart, have someone that's head, have someone that's gut.
Yeah. And then so you can match them up.
That's right.
Yeah.
As leads come through. And we don't have enough time, but even in the lead generation process, so you determine where the leads go. You specify the questions that kind of get at are the customer's heart, head, or gut.
Okay.
So when those leads come through, you farm them to the right salesperson.
Okay. So it's almost like a built-in funnel. You use
It
the,
is.
yeah. Okay. Got it.
It is. So it's all connected. And you're going to see your close rate go up
Yeah.
as
Okay.
opposed to taking a chance on who you
Right.
send it to.
Just a crapshoot, or that, throwing a spaghetti against the wall to see what sticks. Yeah.
Exactly.
Something's going to stick, but a lot of stuff is going to fall and fall through the cracks. All
And
right.
in
So we
our
got,
competitive environment, who has time for that type of a lack of strategy?
yeah, well, right now, I mean, especially coming out of COVID, I mean, people are bootstrapped, right? So you better be precise. Yeah. Yeah. But there's no, kind of shotgun approach to this thing. So we got power,
Mm-hmm,
right? We
mm-hmm,
got personality,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm.
What are the other two P's?
Okay, so the P's are pleasure. That's the
Oh,
one that,
pleasure,
yeah,
pleasure,
pleasure.
pleasure, power.
It's the same. You're right. You're the same thing, bro. It's the same for me.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, pleasure specifically because 99% of the people I work with are women entrepreneurs.
Uh-huh.
And so being connected to our pleasure is our power. So the
Mm-hmm.
pleasure and power are very similar. So whenever I'm working with a client, I take them through that framework because when they come to me, they're burnt out. I'm just going to be candid. They're
Mm-hmm.
tired. They're trying to figure this out.
Mm-hmm.
And they may not be in a monetary bind, but they know they don't feel good about it. And they can see where this is going.
Yeah, they're just
So
frustrated. Yeah.
they're frustrated, even if the
Mm-hmm.
money's in the bank. They're frustrated
Mm-hmm.
with their staff. And it's trickling over into their home life. I'm gonna be real honest.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Women, we have a tough time when we're in leadership roles in our companies and all of these decisions and pressure. And then you come home and your husband's like, "What's for dinner?" You're like, "Choose something. I can't make not one more damn decision today. I'm tired." And he's not here for that shit. Okay. He's like, "This is not what I signed up for." So what
Yeah.
I equip women to do is have a balance of pleasure and to prioritize the pleasure in
Mm-hmm.
everything they do and have tools to help them cope and navigate. So
Yeah.
that's what I'll say. So that pleasure, and how do you come back to your body, come back to your breath, come back to your pleasure in every decision. And also those pleasure practices help them really tie into their knowing, their intuition. Because as leaders, and this is again for woman folk,
Mm-hmm.
men, and I don't care what your spiritual beliefs are, I'm telling you it's true. I'm an 8. But the truth is, men were designed for work and war. It's why you can compartmentalize things so well.
Mm-hmm.
Men can put stuff in buckets and go forward. Women are not fashioned that way. Women are born multitaskers. So we're always thinking about 4 or 5 things at one time.
Mm-hmm.
That's why giving them a script that they have to stick to doesn't really work well because we kind of flow. And I'm a woman that has more masculine energy.
Uh-huh.
People kind of are like, other women are kind of scared of me sometimes. It's kind of that, right?
Yeah, because you have a big personality. Yeah.
I do. I do.
Mm-hmm.
I do. And so, unfortunately, a lot of times when it comes to woman folk, that's not seen as an asset for other women.
Yeah,
It's
but I think that's changing a little bit. Do you think
it
that's
better.
changing a little bit?
It better. It
Okay.
better. But I'm used to going into spaces where women are
Uh-huh.
like, "Oh, what's
Mm-hmm.
up with that? That's a lot for me."
Mm-hmm.
I don't play nice, like I call shit out, I cuss, I
Mm-hmm.
do all of those things. Like that can be like, that's a bit much. But my
Uh-huh.
point in that is saying is that you need to learn how to speak up. You need to know, vocalize what your needs are,
Ask
especially
for what you want. Yeah.
you got to. And
Mm-hmm.
so that fear that you have about selling is because you're not used to asking for what you want. You've been conditioned or socialized that good girls don't ask, good girls don't put up a fret. Good girls don't get paid. I ain't got time to be figuring this out with you and going through all these emotions. It's like, let's go. But we've learned, how can I build that up in you, that same level of confidence, no matter what your personality is? So pleasure helps with all of that, the inner knowing, the power, the ability to speak up. Then we move to personality. We talked about using the Enneagram, which is the personality tool, figuring out how do you best show up. And then we move to positioning, is the third P,
Okay.
which is story. And I know you've had some great
Mm,
podcasts on your podcast already of people speaking about the importance of using story to sell and connect.
mm-hmm.
I have a little bit of a different approach because I feel like those stories need to come from your personality.
Okay.
So one of the stories that I often talk about is how I came out of a domestic violence situation. So I talk about how my personality and my strength made me wake up one day and say, this is not going to continue. I'm going to make different choices. But it's filtered through my personality. So whatever stories you're picking need to highlight your personality. So if you're a
Mm,
helper, or if you're a very orderly person like a one, or whatever stories you're sharing need to highlight your personality strength. Does that make sense?
absolutely. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So these aren't just regular random stories that you tell about, how close you were to your mom, or how much you loved your dog. These
Mm-hmm.
have to be stories that lean into your personality and who you are. So when you share them, people feel the
Right.
connection,
Yeah.
and it's unique. And so we craft those stories based off of your personality, and those are the stories we lead with within your business.
Okay.
So I
I like
spend,
that.
yeah, thank you. I
Mm-hmm.
spend a lot of time basically saying with the business owner, like if I were working with you, I'd say, Jim, what's the primary transformation that you offer? Primary, at the heart level transformation. And we start to put vocabulary to that. And the vocabulary is going to be the language of your personality.
Okay.
So once I know what your personality type is,
Mm-hmm.
now I'm mining the stories and we're matching the language.
Yeah.
So you don't have to think about it. You don't have to prepare for a sales meeting. You don't have to memorize a script because it's you.
Right. Yeah. You just go in and be you.
Man,
Yeah.
man, so powerful, so
Yeah.
liberating.
I would say I was an 8, but now looking at you, I'm probably like 6 and 7/8.
No, 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 no. You could be an 8, you could be a 9, or you could be a 1. Once we get off of here, I'm going to send you over a free test to take because now I'm just curious.
Okay.
Uh, but you could be an 8, 9, or a 1.
Uh-huh.
And we also have wings. So we look a little bit differently depending upon who we are. So you could be an 8 wing 9, for an example.
Okay.
So an 8 wing 9 is what we call the bear. So the bear is somebody whose anger simmers. Okay. So I come in like the Chihuahua. I come in like, what you say? Ah, right? A bear, that anger is simmering.
Mm-hmm.
And a bear is a lot more strategic.
Yeah. So they're kind of brooding.
They're definitely brooding,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
definitely brooding. And people feel it. So even when you're not talking me, I'm like,
Uh-huh.
people feel 8 wing 9. They feel it
Yeah.
like something's going on in that corner
Uh-huh.
that could be a little dangerous. So, yeah, so it just depends on who you are. But that's what we do. So it's super important to me that women folk specifically tie into their pleasure because that's the gateway to their power and their intuition. Then lean into your personality because that is you. You always hear people say in the sales world, there can't be any competition because nobody can be you. Make a blue ocean. Don't be in the red ocean, be in the blue ocean. And I'm like, all of that's true. But the problem is, you don't know who the hell you are. So you
Right.
can't communicate to other people who you are.
Right.
I don't know you, Jim. It's like if
Mm-hmm.
I don't know you, how am I going to know, like, and trust you?
Right.
So people are struggling with how to craft that in an authentic way that they feel good about sharing. And that's where I step in to help them.
Yeah, I got it. All right. So you got pleasure,
Uh-huh.
you've got personality, you've got position,
Uh-huh.
and then the last P survey
Is
says,
profit. Show me where the money resides.
oh, yes. Yes. Let's definitely talk about that.
Show me where the money resides. That's the only place I want to be, right? But
Uh
no,
huh.
in all seriousness, it's a natural outpouring of the other three. When
Right.
you're really aligned in those other three, you write your own paycheck.
Right. Yeah. It's a byproduct.
It absolutely is. It
Yeah.
absolutely is. So it's P plus P plus P equals P in my framework.
Okay.
And depending upon the business, there is a little bit of business coaching that I do around just making sure that they're priced profitably
Mm-hmm.
and those sorts of things, depending upon what their needs are. But the majority of it is like the expectation that you're going to make this money.
Yeah.
Yeah. And standing in that. And how much is it? How much can you realistically make in this business?
Yeah.
You know, do you really understand your numbers? That sort of thing. So that happens in that final P conversation is really making sure that they're positioned to profit.
Yeah. Well, I like the four P's.
Thank you.
Because it's different in that a lot of because I've had a lot of salespeople on the show on the podcast, and a lot of them they obviously focus on the client or the prospect rather,
Mhm.
and overcoming objections before they come and all of this. But they have their script, and they want you to fit into the script and maybe try to find your personality in the script. But you kind of flip that on its head and approach it the other way. Let's find your personality, and then let's position you for success,
That's right.
within your personality, within your pleasure, within your power, right? And going from there.
You hit
Yeah.
it right on the head. It's like
Yeah.
that was my thing. And let me tell you where that came from. When I was in corporate, I literally, we worked in a bullpen environment. So I'm like, you got to be tough just to be like
Thick
two
skin.
women.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's two women
Mm-hmm.
in male dominated sales environments. You got to be a certain type of person to even work in those spaces. But
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget one of my coworkers, because I told you my energy is very much so. I believe so much in what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I believe so much in what I sell that honestly, I feel like if you don't buy it, this is really your loss. I truly believe that. So whether I'm talking to a woman who wants to spend $200 a month on a pole dance membership, or if I'm talking to a CFO who is responsible for a $20 million company, my energy's the same
Mm-hmm.
because I believe in what I'm selling. And so I was on a call with the CFO of a very large company, and he was giving me pushback on our prices for what we were doing. He had gotten a quote from somebody else, and I don't play in that. I don't play in that type of mud. Okay. And so I
Not
honestly,
that you don't play in mud, just not that type.
not that type of mud, right? I'm gonna play a heel in mud over in the West Indies. I'm not playing
Uh,
that type of murky mud.
okay.
And I'll never forget. I can't even tell you what the conversation was, but basically how I ended the conversation rattled my coworker because I basically told the person what either this is going to be for you or it's not going to be for you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going down on our price because what would you like to give up to get a lower price? And my product won't be the same without those things.
Right.
So this is a moot conversation. Call me back if this is really, if you want to change, call me back was kind of the energy. I hung up. I'm ready for the next call. My coworker, his eyes are just like huge because he's like, what the hell did I just watch?
Uh-huh.
He's like, you really don't give a damn if he calls you back. I said, hell no, I don't give a care if he calls me back. I'm like, because he's losing
Mm-hmm.
if he doesn't. But that clicked for me because my coworker had a different personality.
Mm-hmm.
My coworker was more of a nurturer, more of a, I want to walk beside you. It's my goal to make you look good. So
Mm-hmm.
that was startling to him. But that CFO loved that energy. And the next day he called me back and was like, I'm sorry. He apologized.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, let's do this because you were right. I'm like, of course I'm right. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. But I like that idea because a lot of people are so focused on just getting the sale that they'll do anything to try to get the sale.
yep.
And the analogy that I use at Catalyst, my training studio, and my general manager and we've had this conversation several times. Whenever a client comes in or a prospective client comes in and they start asking for a discount right off the bat, that's not a client I want, because it's been my experience 99% of the time that when they come in and they ask for a discount and then you give them some kind of deal, they become the worst client.
Absolutely.
They're the biggest pain in the ass. They require most of your time in mental space, and then you're making less money off of them, and it's just not worth it. So those tend to be the best clients. And I tell my staff all the time, we have to train our clients.
Yes.
We have to train our clients. Like when we come in, if we want them to do our dynamic warm up, we got to train them to that.
That's right.
They're not just going to come in and get it. We got to train them to it. So it's the same thing when you're making these sales calls. It's like with the CFO, it's like, you got to train them. Like, this is the way we do things around here. And you need to, get on board, or this train's going to leave without you.
Choo choo. It's moving.
Right, exactly. So I really like that. And then the other thing that I wanted to touch on before we wrap up is that, when you talk about effective leadership, I think at least for me, I say this all the time, if you want to be a better leader, then you got to be a better person.
Period.
And part of that is becoming aware of your weaknesses and your strengths.
Yes.
Right? Because most people say, oh, well, I just need to be aware of my weakness. No, you need to be aware of your strengths too. And you need to own those, and stand in those. But you also need
preach,
to own
brother, preach. Yes.
Right. But you also need to own your weaknesses and say, I'm not good here, and I need to make some improvements here. So, because to your point, you're always selling, right? As a business owner, you're always selling. You're selling to prospective clients, you're selling to your staff, you're selling to whoever walks in the front door or your office. You're always selling. Like, say, if I have we put in this new software to help us, and then I had to sell it to my staff. I had to say, hey, I got this great software, and this is what it's going to do, and this is how it's going to help you. This is how it's going to make your life better here at Catalyst, blah, blah, blah. I got to sell it to them, right? So that they buy in and create ownership for it. But if I'm not aware of my weaknesses, where, like, for me, one of the biggest things that I came across was, one, I was a bully. I was a fucking bully. I was like, this is my company. We're going to do it my way. If you don't like it, there's the door. I own this place. I'm not going anywhere, so you better get on board. People don't want to work for that guy,
No.
And so I had to, and then I have this thing where I get so busy. I put so many things on my plate that I forget appointments, right? But for me, I was like, oh, damn, I forgot that. It fell through the cracks. But to the other people, they're like, oh, well, I guess he thinks his time is more important than mine.
He doesn't care about me. Yeah.
He doesn't care about me. Exactly. So, which is not the case, but I can see how they could get that. But I had to work on that, to become a better leader, So that's what I'm saying, is that same thing with sales, is that, or anything, you have to kind of get in touch with yourself, acknowledge your strength, acknowledge your weaknesses, and build both of them. Right.
Right. That's right. you're going to grow. I love what you said, preach, brother, preach. I'm
Uh-huh.
like, the truth is this, that your business is going to grow from, because now we're talking leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Your business is going to grow at the speed that you're growing.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So if you're not growing, you expect for your business to be stagnant. So much of the coaching work that we do is around building mental fortitude, emotional integrity, all of these things. I'm going to mute you. I'm hoping are you going to edit this?
I can edit this. Yeah.
Okay, because my grandkids just came in here and they are going ham. Hang on one.
Yeah. Grandma's coming.
Man, I've got four grandkids. They
Uh-huh.
range in age from 7, 3, and twins that are 2.
Mm-hmm.
So my daughter just came. The middle one, who is like my twin, he's 3. He opened my office door right away. It was like, boom, like I'm here. What's going
Uh-huh.
on? Like,
Yeah, I heard
they're
him.
going crazy with their granddad. But
Yeah.
so I was saying, so I'll pick up from that thought of, so when they edit this part, is that your business is going to grow at the speed that you're growing personally. And so your personal development, I couldn't agree with you more, has to be a priority. Clients constantly need to be growing in their leadership, and you hit it right on the head. We can know our strengths and ignore our shadow, or we can be so into our shadow where you get into this like, I'm constantly trying to become this best version of me, that you don't acknowledge the gifting that you bring to the situation. Being out of whack is not good either way. And the Enneagram is the perfect tool to reveal both. I think we talked about this in our pre interview, is that other personality tests, you can game it.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's like, okay, they want a team player, you can ask me the question 12 different ways. If I want the job, I'm going to answer because you can see the questioning.
Mm-hmm.
In the Enneagram, you can't game it
Right.
because there's a dark side that you're going to have to face
Mm-hmm.
on any of those 9 numbers.
Right.
There's going to be a shadow side. There isn't going to be the perfect number.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're feeling really good, it's going to hit you with something. So like a 2, for example, the person who's the helper, who can see the client, they also can be hella manipulative.
Mm-hmm.
They can also be very build codependent relationships
Yeah.
where they feel less than if they're not needed. So you were all with it when you were like, yes, you help people, you can see them.
Uh-huh.
But then it's going to flip the coin and say, but you also, when you're not integrated, are manipulative,
Right.
codependent,
Mm-hmm.
needy. And you're like, oh, wait, no, I think I want another number. Okay, pick another, pretend to be another number. There's going to be a dark side. 8, unintegrated. We're bullies. What you talked about. We're
Mm-hmm.
bullies.
Yeah.
I use the analogy of a snowplow when it comes to an 8. I can pave the way for you. I can get in front of you and move all that snow because heavy lifting doesn't bother us. Emotional heavy lifting, we can take a lot of shots as
Uh-huh.
8. I can clear a path for you. But when I'm unintegrated, I can take that same snow and dump it right on you.
Yep. Yeah.
So
Without
clients,
even realizing it. Yeah.
without even realizing it.
Mm-hmm.
So my staff and clients want me to be the pave maker.
Mm-hmm.
But when you dump it on them, it's the same energy that's going to get you terrible results. So thank you for bringing that up. But
Yeah.
that's definitely a leadership conversation.
Yeah.
Uh, but the Enneagram is a great tool. So if there's someone listening to this now and they're saying, yeah, I want to improve my sales, and I want to make sure they're conveying who we are at Catalyst. Like you said, this is who we are.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we're talking about. We don't want this type of client. Your value story.
Mm-hmm.
This process is going to help you. I'm going to hit all those areas because I know that's what it takes to run
Right.
7-figure businesses, period.
Right.
That's what it takes.
Mhm.
And it's such an enriching process to go through that when you come out of it, your business is stronger, but even more importantly, your clients are better cared for.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think everybody, at least in my situation, everybody won, because when I did that work to become a better person, it helped me be a better leader, a better boss, a better partner, a better dad, everything. And then it, helped my staff feel more, bought in, have ownership of their position and their responsibilities. The clients feel that everybody wins, and I tell you, one of the most powerful stories that I had is that when we first opened up after COVID, my general manager came down with COVID.
Oh, wow.
And so she was out for 2 weeks, and she's, COVID, 2020 was rough on everybody, but it was rough on her because she went, over to Paris where she got engaged,
Oh,
and then didn't know if she was going to be able to get back because they shut down the borders. So, but anyway, so she got COVID. And so we're like, okay, we let everybody know, all the clients, we got everybody tested. We did everything that we needed to do to keep everybody safe. But this one client was like, he was abusive towards her.
mm,
And I said, no, we're not going to tolerate that. I said, you know what? I'm like, that's not what we do here. And I don't think this is the place for you. I'm going to cancel your contract. And I hope you find some place that, fits your needs. But, for right now, I don't think this is it.
yeah.
And so I fired him, and he was a good client. He paid us a lot of money.
Monetarily, yeah.
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 But it just wasn't worth it. And the response I got from my staff from that was like overwhelming. You would think I gave them the biggest bonus of their life.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but it's one of those emotional things, is like, no, we stick together. We got each other's back,
That's right.
and that shit ain't gonna fly,
It,
so
I don't
like
care how much money he pays me.
exactly. And so the effect that had on our culture, but that's a leadership thing, because in the past I would have been like, well, we got to keep that client, we got to keep that revenue coming in, Deb, you're going to have to suck it up, and then that would have, affected morale, culture, and then that would
And
empower
you
that
could have lost your
client to be
GM.
right. Well, it lost my GM, and then that would empower that client to be even more abusive. I would have been rewarding his behavior, all of these things. So, yeah, so that was a powerful lesson. So I
Thank you for
appreciate it.
sharing that, Jim, because
Yeah.
I'm like, seriously, and I think so many people need to hear that because number one, you were coming off of COVID, and I don't care who you were. We all were
Mhm.
here. All
Right.
of our revenue was hit. So that
Mhm.
probably made him even more emboldened to
Right.
feel like big fish because you need my money right now.
Right.
No,
And we
bro, I
did.
know. Look, but not at this price, not at the
Right.
price of the morale of my people, at the respect of the business of
Mhm.
Catalyst. No, I'll find another you.
Yeah.
They mean more to me
Right.
than your abuse, right? And think about probably what was going through your staff's head was kind of like they understand that things are tight. They're not crazy.
Uh-huh.
She's young. She
Uh-huh.
knows it's tight. And she's like, man, is Jim gonna stand up for me?
Mhm.
And when Jim stepped into that, it was like, and it builds such loyalty.
Right.
Because that's another thing. We could have a leadership conversation forever, but when you've got a revolving door of staff,
Mhm.
I had one business owner tell me, this one owns kind of like, she has a lot of Les Mills modalities in her
Mhm.
space, but it's not a Les Mills gym. But she has a lot of like their body pump and she uses a lot of their modalities.
Mhm.
But when she first started working with me, she was like, well, you know how salespeople are. They're always looking for the next opportunity. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
that ain't true. I'm like, that's not true. When I was in corporate, I stayed at sales jobs for 5, 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
Don't the sales jobs I left was because I didn't believe in the product or the management was crappy.
Right.
I wasn't just because I always felt like my check is endless as long as the commission structure is good.
Right. Uh-huh.
But if I didn't believe in the product I was selling, or if I was working in an environment that I felt was oppressive to me,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm an 8, I have to be able to do stuff. Like I gotta be able to just to go. So that means I need to come in when I want to come in. I need to be able to leave. I need flexibility to do me.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But and if it wasn't that type of environment, that's why I left. So that's a red flag to me though. But
Mm-hmm.
she had associated that not with poor leadership, not with the opportunity to grow in her leadership. She just was like, well, that's what salespeople do.
Mm-hmm.
They get bored and they're looking for the next amount of money. I'm like, no, that's not normal.
Right.
We got to get to that. And we're still working at that, to be candid. That's why they
Yeah.
say her name. I don't want to put her on Front Street.
Yeah, but I think that's an ongoing thing, right?
Uh-huh.
That constant evolution, right?
Yeah.
So this has been great, and I love to have you back on. I love to reserve the right to have you back on to talk about leadership and dive into this more, and some of the vernacular you use, like shadow, is very familiar with me to me. So I would like to get into that as well. But now we get to my favorite part of the podcast. It's because it is my podcast. So, I have to scratch my own itch a little bit, right? But this is my favorite part because I think we get some of the best answers. We get the peek behind the curtain of who is Leslie Lyons, although I think everybody knows who you are by now. But so my first question is, so what has been your most successful failure? And what I mean by that, and you've listened to the podcast, so you know these questions.
I do.
At the time, it seemed like a devastating loss that you weren't going to be able to recover from, but you were able to take lessons from it that propel you to greater success down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. It was 2008, and I was still floundering in my business. I was still trying to figure this thing out. And
Mm-hmm.
we were in the heart of a recession. And I thought I was going to play the price game. That's what I thought. I thought I was going to, because pole had the stigma around it. I'm like, if I can just get people in at a low cost, I never did free, but it felt like free is what
Mm-hmm.
it felt like. It was so, especially now when I look at a class, a single class with us now is between $32 and $35 a class. Back then, this was like a $10 class. It was so small. And I thought I was going to play that game because I was like, I'm going to have to overcome the stereotype, blah, 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 blah. The price will be low. Well, what it did was we couldn't pay our bills, just to be 100%
Mm-hmm.
candid with you. We could not pay our bills. And
Mm-hmm.
I was too prideful to go to my husband to ask him for money. Oh, this is going to be a terrible story.
No, it's a good one. It's a good one. Come on.
It's
Because
just
this is what people face. This is reality.
Yep.
You're not alone.
Yep.
Yeah. So go ahead. I'm nodding my head. Yeah, go ahead.
So my husband was already kind of skeptical about the whole pole dancing thing. Mm-hmm. I'm leaving a very cushy 6-figure salary in sales to do this. And now here I was failing because I was failing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I cannot go and ask him for money. Like, this is crazy. So I kid you not. And people are like, this got to be a lie. This could not have happened. No, it's the truth. The same day, our lights got turned off and our gas at the studio. The same day.
Mm-hmm.
Because I hadn't paid the bills.
Right.
Flat out. And they both got disconnected the same day. So I walk into a cold, dark studio in the middle of winter in Chicago.
Ooh.
I'm crying. I'm embarrassed. I'm feeling like a failure. I'm feeling all the things. And I must have cried probably in that cold, dark studio for about an hour. But my energy changed in that very moment. We went from $10 classes Literally, we had memberships that were like $49 a month. The very next day, because I had to go to my husband because I had to get the gas and the lights turned back on, all the things. So I had to take the walk of shame and tell him, and him being why we've been married for 21 years, he was gracious. He had a lecture, but he was gracious. So once we got everything back going, I literally overnight took my prices from $49 a month to $120 a month overnight. Overnight. Because I said, what do I have to lose? These clients already ain't paying anything. I'm sitting here in a cold, dark studio. But here's the lesson I learned. We retained 80% of those clients.
Yeah.
That went from $49 to $120 overnight. Nothing changed in the service. But you know what I used? I used the power of positioning. I told the story of why that needed to change. And I leaned into their story of how this had changed their lives. And this all gonna go away if we don't change this today.
Yeah.
So it taught me two things. Number one, it taught me the value of pricing for what you need.
Right.
Okay. And it also taught me a bigger lesson is that people will pay for transformation.
Yeah. And yeah, that's a powerful story because, you know, if you go into the pricing game, it's a race to the bottom, right? Then you become a commodity. And then the fact that you were able to maintain 80% of your clientele paying 120 versus 49 means you probably lost some of the headache clients and increase your revenue dramatically. So you had less clients, more revenue. Who wouldn't want that? Right.
Seriously, but I wasn't in the mindset before that happened that what I was doing, that the transformation was worth it. But when I went into my story, but more importantly, when I went into my clients' stories, it allowed me to lean into that confidence that I have. Because I told you, when I believe in things, I puff up.
Right. Yeah.
And so I puffed up majorly. So yeah, that was a major turning point for me.
Yeah, I like that. And you're not alone in that situation. We had a similar situation at Catalyst.
Really?
When I hired this part-time CFO, Ivan, he saved my business, helped me save my business. Good. But my next question is, since you've been in the fitness space, which is 15 years now, what has been the biggest surprise that you've had to deal with that you did not see coming? COVID is exempt because nobody saw that.
Obviously.
Yeah.
The virtual stuff. Because even before COVID, because I'm also in the coaching space, the online course space, you were starting to see some of these bigger name fitness personalities start branching out into virtual classes before COVID. I won't say the name of the person, but SoulCycle was the company. And they had this one star instructor, like everybody loves this guy's classes. And he left SoulCycle. And I don't know how much you know about the SoulCycle model in terms of how they pay. They pay really well for fitness. They're fitness stars. They pay really well. So they had flown him from corporate to start here in Chicago, the whole nine. And I thought he was dumb. Seriously, I was like, this is stupid. Like, this is dumb. Like, you're leaving SoulCycle. Like, I know how much money you make. I know they relocated you. And you're going to start teaching cycling classes out your living room. Bro, bye. Let me know how that worked out. First of all, I'm talking before COVID. It showed me the power of people wanting to work out on their own terms, but still have connection. Because Jane Fonda been around forever and with videos, right? I could do P90X or whatever that kill yourself exercise is that they do. All that plyometric stuff that you buff men do and women do. I'm not doing any of that. But you do those sorts of things. But that connection. And that's what he told me. He was like, people want convenience, but they also want connection.
Mhm.
And I was listening, but I didn't completely believe it. So he proved before COVID that his following was so deep that people were willing to pay him top dollar and still go to Soul Cycle.
Oh, wow.
Still go to Soul Cycle, but paid him top dollar. So when COVID hit and Soul Cycle got into the home bike, Brother Man is killing it. So I didn't see the virtual thing coming. I don't know how you feel about it, Jim, but I did not see the virtual thing coming. I'm talking pre-COVID.
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming. And I've been surprised how many people are willing to still convenience and connection. Those are the two C's that when I describe it to clients is important. I didn't see that coming at all.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I was in the same boat. I thought it was it was going to be a segment of the population, but a small segment. And then COVID, it became, it grew like Amazon, right?
Right.
And then now coming out of COVID, I think it's not going to be as big as it was during the shutdown, but I think it's here to stay. Yeah, and it's going to capture a bigger percentage of the fitness market than before. And so you can't ignore it.
You can't ignore it, and it's also a price opportunity. Your premium level membership, to have that on-demand option, whether it's a library, if it's live stream classes, whatever it is, it's an opportunity to make additional money.
Right.
Be able to package that in a way.
Yeah, another stream. Yeah.
It's an absolute another stream, as opposed to just saying poo-poo, I don't want to do that. We did that through the lockdown. We're back. No, people still need to see what part of your population might want to continue to do that.
Right.
And how could you package it in a profitable way? Because the overhead on that is so much lower.
Right.
Than running in-person classes. So something to think about for sure.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, we've had a couple of people on the show to talk about that. So it's interesting, but it's very nuanced. All right, and then my last question is, where do you go for your personal and professional development?
Yeah, well, I have a therapist and a coach. I have like 3 coaches.
Good for you.
Yeah, I really do. Only because it takes a lot to keep me on the right track, bro. Like mentally, it takes a lot. So I am team mental health. And so I have a therapist, and I've been in therapy now the way that we go to gyms. Like, I really see mental fitness as important as physical fitness. And so that's my primary source. But I've got coaches right now. I'm working with a coach about transition in the middle age, man. This is a bitch, man. I did not expect this. This is different for me. So I have a coach right now that is literally coaching me through middle age, like all of the things that I did not expect in my body, that I did not expect mentally, energetically. So right now, between my therapist and my middle age coach, it's keeping me from blowing up on people.
Oh, that's good. I like that. It's funny when you were saying that, my girlfriend, she has her own business. She does, digital marketing for healthcare facilities, but she does like meditation and does all this stuff. And she said the other day, she's like, it takes a lot to be me. And so when you were saying that, I'm thinking, yeah, it takes a lot to be me. And it takes a lot to be me too, because, I have my routines. I meditate, I read, talk to people. I sit down and have tea with my issues when I meditate.
Come on.
All those things. Yeah. So, yeah, it takes when nobody gets to the top alone, right? You need that team.
Not at all. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I have the resources to afford these people too.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's definitely an investment. So yeah.
All right. And then, so where can people get in contact with you if they want to find out more, if they want to hire you,
All that
talk
fun.
to you, all that good stuff?
Yeah. Thank you again, Jim. This was so fun.
Yeah, it was fun. I was really looking forward to having because I you have great energy.
Oh,
So
thank you. Thank you.
yeah.
And you do too. I felt like
Oh,
I was sitting here talking to a buddy. So this is super
oh,
cool.
good, good.
But they can find me. Leslie D Lyons is my website, and I
Okay.
hang out on Instagram primarily under the same Leslie D Lyons.
Okay.
So thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your guidance in our industry, because you know what? There's so much fluff and cookie cutter going on where people do feel isolated. People
Mhm.
are not making what they should be making for the transformation they're providing. And your podcast is a resource to change that shit. And so I'm grateful.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. That's always been the goal. So I really appreciate that, and appreciate you coming on and taking the time. So, and all those links will be in the show notes. Go to trainerjim.net, click on this episode of the podcast, and all the links to contact Leslie will be right there. Leslie, this has been awesome. Go enjoy those grandkids. I hear them
I
in the
will.
background.
All right.
You were amazingly composed while they were running around.
Woo.
So that's a grandma for you. So Leslie, thanks a lot. And again, I'll reach out to you so we can have you back on and talk about some leadership stuff.
I would love it, Jim. Thank
All
you for
right.
your
Thanks.
time.
Have a good rest of your
All right.
day.
You too.
All right. Bye.
Bye.